Back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Mick Aoki, the head baseball coach at Richmond. How's it going?
Very well, thanks. Thanks for having me on. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So we are only just a few weeks away from the season starting. How have practices been going, and what have you learned about your team so far in the first few weeks?
Yeah, I guess you learned a little bit more about the team in the fall after getting a chance to see them for almost 6 weeks. We, right now we're still in that 8 hour period, and we use some of it to be able to do live at bats. And we did get one scrimmage last weekend where we just were out there, I think, for maybe 3 innings or something like that. But I like our team. I like our team this year. I think we need a few guys to. I think we'll be really bolstered if there's a few guys that come back from some injury. We have some older guys that are rehabbing from Tommy John, who, their surgeries came at sort of a not a great time to bounce back, but so far they're making really good progress. And if those guys are there, I think, we have a chance to have a pretty strong and deep pitching staff.
Yeah. So well, before we take a look at the conference, but overall, just take me around the diamond, tell me about all the players that will be of note for this year, and then just players to watch out for people watching this.
Yeah. I think I'm going to start with the outfield, which is sort of
Okay.
a weird, probably place to start. I just feel like that's probably the place that we are most stable in terms of guys that are returning their level of performance last year. And so we have from right to left, we've got Phil Bernstein, who will be our starter in right field, Aaron Whitley in center, and DJ Pacheco out in left field. They all three had very, very good years last year. Aaron in particular, he's a defensive player of the year. DJ had a really good year in left field, transitioning from the infield to the outfield, and I thought he did a really good job with that. Phil Bernstein is, for me, he's like he's like the version of a professional hitter, right? I mean, he just gives you one quality at bat after one quality at bat. He's as steady as can be in the field and everything else. Really just a really good ball player. Aaron Whitley, I think, could probably go play defense in the big leagues like right now, and then in the infield, the infield is a little bit in terms of where guys play, but we had guy Jordan Jaffe will be returning. He was a A10 freshman of the year 2 years ago, had a very good year last year. Connor Larson, who transferred to us, had a very good year at shortstop and really came on offensively as the year went on. Aiden O'Keefe played really well for us. He was a redshirt freshman last year and made the most of his opportunities. And then, first base, we'll probably add Joey Wilga to the mix. We have a transfer who came in, Brady O'Brien from Colby College, and Brady is a terrific player, so he'll somehow have to fit into that whole mix in there. And we'll sort of see how that goes. But I think Brady and Jordan are probably, and Connor are probably your headliners in that group. And then behind the plate, we'll have some combination of Cole Palmieri, who's a grad transfer, Jack Archimone, who had a very strong freshman year last year mostly as a DH, and RJ Rickabaugh, who played a decent amount for us last year back there as well. So I think it'll be a good combination of guys. Cole and Jack are both, I think, very, very good hitters, have some power. And then RJ is maybe, probably the most advanced from a defensive standpoint overall, but we'll just have to see how that all works out. So I think we have I think we have the chance to have a really good lineup and be able to play a pretty high level of defense with those guys out there.
What was it like just getting used to the A10? Of course, you last year was your first year.
Right.
What was it like just trying to get used to this? Because I know you've been a lot of places. Of course, you were at Morehead State before that, and then before then, of course, you were at Notre Dame for a while. What was it like just getting used to the A10, and what's this conference been like to play in?
I thought it was great. I thought it was good. I mean, obviously, when you go in your first year, you don't really know what it looks like. I think I had, um, I went from BC to Notre Dame. BC had, when I first got there, was in the Big East, and then transitioned to the ACC. And then when we got to Notre Dame, made a similar transition from the Big East to the ACC, and so I had a little familiarity with both leagues. I think Moorhead was the first time, once I got to be a head coach, I was coming into a conference without really knowing all that much about it. And I think that took a year or two to sort of make the adjustment. I think last year was the same thing. I kind of go in and I know, my alma mater had transitioned years ago from, the dark ages when I was there and, they were in the Southern Conference to having been really good in the A10. St. Joe's has been really good. Obviously VCU, Dayton, SLU have all been sort of, really atop the A10. And I had played, I had coached against SLU a little bit, a handful of times against Davidson, and St. Joe's, I think too, as well. But you didn't really, in some of those instances, they're midweek games. You don't know what their, weekend arms look like. And so I didn't really have a great sense, but I felt like, I feel pretty good about it now that I've seen it and get a chance to see what it's like. It's a good bunch of coaches. I think it's a great group of guys to compete against, and they're fun. They're a lot of these guys I've known for quite a long time, and they're, good people to compete against. And I thought the league was very, from top to bottom, it's, every coach is probably going to say this, right? But I think it's anybody can beat anybody in the league on any given day if you don't come and play well. All right. And so, but I like where we are. I like where Richmond is in terms of the types of support and the resources that we have to, to every year have an opportunity, hopefully to compete if we're doing a good job of recruiting and developing.
Yeah. Okay, so going into this year in terms of the conference, where are we where are we at right now? I mean, what's it looking like? I mean, I don't think anyone knows yet, but
Yeah, I think that's a really hard question to ask anybody in this day and age of the portal, right? It's and admittedly, I am not I do not like just sitting on top of the portal to see who's moving on from where and what's going on and all of those types of things, right? So I think that you'd probably have to give just due to the teams that finished pretty well last year, right? I think, in spite of a coaching change and them losing a couple of key pieces, I would think that, VCU is probably going to be pretty strong again. I think SLU will more than likely be pretty strong again. I think you say the same thing about Dayton, new coach, new coaching staff, but Dayton, I think traditionally has been able to attract a high quality baseball player. St. Joe, I know got hurt by both the draft and the portal a little bit. But I think Fritz will do a good job of reloading. Davidson, I think would probably, they get a little bit older. I know that they lost the catcher to the draft, but I think, those guys, they get a little bit older and they had some guys that are coming back. So you think that they would be okay. I feel like we will, I feel like we have a chance to be in the mix, right? To go win the league. So, and all these guys, I mean, Coach Rathbun up in St. Bonnie's, he's got a dude who's like throwing 100 miles an hour on Fridays,
yeah,
so it's we'll see. It should be interesting, but I feel good about our chances of competing in the conference.
yeah. So let's take a look at non-conference stuff. Of course, starting off at home on the 14th with Navy, you got William and Mary, VMI, you got Lehigh, Fairfield to start off the non-conference slate, and then you got, of course, Penn State, Boston College. What is this non-conference slate going to look like as you guys try to get ready for A10 play later on in on the 14th against Bonaventure, who you just mentioned?
Yeah, yeah. Well, so I think it's good. I think it'll give us a good challenge. We play a lot early, right? We have, I think we have three, like 5+ week games, 5 game weeks rather. I think we play 6 games in a week in one of those weeks. And so I think it'll give us an opportunity to roll a lot of pitching out there and see where they are. I think it'll give us an opportunity to roll those 3 catchers out there to roll what it looks like. And really by the time we get to playing against St. Bonnie's down here to open the conference weekend, I hope that we have a really good picture of what we're capable of doing and the guys and all of the pieces and how they react to playing games when they count, right? Because it is a little bit of a different mindset. I know Tracy was talking about that on the last one, right? When the lights go on, I think was his thing. We don't have lights, so they can't go on, but it's I think it's a big difference, right? It's a big difference between when you're just playing inter squatting and when the stats actually get the count, and you're playing against somebody with a different jersey on, and it's that there is a difference there. So we'll see how they react. But we have, I think, a good slate of what you would consider mid majors, and against some, like an NC State or a BC or a Penn State that are all Power Four, I guess these days, clubs. So I think and then later on, I think Virginia is like the preseason #2 or something in one poll that I saw. So we've got Virginia a little bit later on. So I think it's good. I think it'll be good test for us, and looking forward to it.
Next, I know we're 3 weeks away from the season, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. Like, what by the time the season starts, what do you guys want to accomplish before the 14th, before Navy comes to town?
I think importantly is getting our pitchers, the sort of the buildup that they need. That'll start with this weekend. It looks like the weather is going to finally warm up a little bit. It's been pretty chilly down here, by anybody's standards, but certainly by Virginia's standards. And then, so we'll scrimmage, it looks like, weather permitting, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those guys, most of our guys that, are sort of competing for starting roles will be somewhere around like 35 to 40 pitches, and then we'll build each weekend. And so that's important. But I also think you want to get a sense of, okay, like some of the new guys, how are they going to fit in? How do we sort of settle our infield situation? We've got good players, and it'll be, I think, a high level of competition. Getting our hitters up to speed in terms of seeing live at bats on a regular basis. They might have seen some of it over their winter break, but it's, most of their work has probably been cage work and machines and things like that. So getting their timing down, and then just making sure that we reinforce some of the team defense concepts that we instituted in the fall, and just reviewing those and touching those up so that guys know where they're going when they're, on certain plays.
Absolutely. Mick Aoki, thank you so much for the time, and best of luck to the Spiders this coming season.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Case.